This army is for the Republic.
For the Republic!
What is going on, guys? Clone Force 23 got another exciting video for you today. I got my boy Alec here to share the good news of our latest tournament showing. Alec, how's it going?
I'm doing great, and I'm very excited to have a somewhat relevant tourney that happened this past weekend, and great success from our team. Let's talk about it.
Oh yeah. So we had a local store tournament in Roseville that was prizing off a Carbonite box, which is pretty significant, I would say, in terms of like a value tournament. And a few of us were able to go. One of our teammates was able to make it, and he actually won the thing. And we're going to talk about his deck a little bit. And that is probably one that a lot of people have been talking about. It's Quinlan Voss Tarkentown. Pretty crazy deck here. So we can jump on over and we can talk about the deck as well. Alec, I know you did a lot of work putting this one together, so let's talk a little bit about what you got here.
Yeah, so this is the list that I put together after Django was banned, and I actually used this list at locals last Tuesday before the tournament and went 4-0 that night, and the deck felt super great. So shout out to our teammate Max, who decided to pilot this on Saturday, just cookie, like same exact deck that I played, and yeah, took it to first place and won the Carbonite box. So yeah, more of kind of a deep dive into the deck. There are a couple different nuances, but Quinlan Tarkentown obviously being, I want to say he's like the front runner, right? But he's like up there right now. A lot of people are like, okay, what's the best deck right now? And I don't really know if there is a best one, but I think if you're trying to put that, someone in that spot, Quinlan Tarkentown could definitely be in the conversation. And so there are a lot of just standard choices, right, for the deck. There's always going to be 3 Platoons. There's always going to be Ezra's. Always going to be Force Throws, always Sparks, right? That hand hate is kind of there. And then we get a nice couple of bumps from Jump to Lightspeed, being Ahsoka Tano and Red 5 kind of coming out and making its way into a deck that takes a lot of advantage of it. Ahsoka just adding to the hand hate is crazy. I know some of the, you open like Force Throw, Ahsoka, Ezra, and Grogu, and you're like, I'm going to have a great game. hard to lose this. So the Force package, synergy becoming really strong, even more strong with Ahsoka. And then into the sideboard, there are a couple more Lightspeed cards, being Jam Communications and the Shadowed Hover Tank, kind of swapping place with the Gamorrean Guard. So, the deck in itself kind of plays the same way, but obviously different meta. A lot of different decks are strong right now, so you got to have that ability to adjust your play lines and play according to what you're sitting across the table from. Now, there are, I think, 1 or 2 cards that are not in our list that are in quite a few of the Quinlan list. They're not necessarily like bad. Like, I definitely think you could play them. A-Wing, L3, and Sabine unit are all kind of like non-negotiable. You're always playing those 3 units.
Sure.
Grogu, the like 4th turn 1 play is always the flex spot. We chose Grogu. We've had a really good like play testing with Grogu. People are piloting those Falcons. You're ending up with initiative. You can just keep them tapped down. Same thing against aggro. It's also a 0/5 for the mirror, which is really nice. Force them to play that Tarkentown if they can damage it, and get it out of there. Also is a Force synergy on turn 1. So there are a lot of times where it's like Grogu, claim, tap something down, Force throw, play another 2-drop. Like, really good play line.
Yeah.
He also wears a blaster very well, which which is my favorite thing to do, is Grogu with gun. So I know at locals, I had put, I think, a blaster on Grogu, and then I put my second blaster on Grogu to win the game. So, like, people don't expect this 0-5 to, they'll kind of leave him alone later in the game, but you can still surprise strike a Grogu, right? And you can still get that 3 damage, and you can still hotshot blaster a Grogu. So, yeah, I think Grogu's awesome. I don't think he's leaving our list, certainly anytime soon. The other one is Leia. Now, I very much like Leia. It was very hard for me to cut Leia and Daring Raids specifically, because that was also our way to get rid of the X5 that Han would play on turn 1. They pump and they bring out a Falcon or a Liberated Slaves or something else. And then you can Leia, Ready Resource, Daring Raid, target down. Han isn't as relevant anymore. I shouldn't say that. He's definitely still relevant, but he's not as kind of there in the meta right now. And so ultimately we decided to cut the Leia. I do like her a lot, though. I really like Leia. And target or Daring Raid's also a very good card. So tell me on what happens if we do see this Han rise again. Han Green's running around and Mono's still there. It could be something where it needs to be in the board somewhere to help that matchup. But again, Grogu does kind of help that as well, to tap stuff down. Then the other 2-drop is the X-34 Land Speeder. Now, there's big arguments in the Quinlan community right now about whether you should be playing Grogu or the Land Speeder. I think both are great. Like, there's no reason to say one is better than the other. I know in the finals, spoiler, in the finals, which was a Quinlan mirror, that Max's opponent, he played Grogu turn 1, and then the opponent played the Land Speeder into Grogu, used his Tarkin Town, and Max still won because your opponent exhausted his Tarkin Town on turn 1 to do a 0-5. Like, sure, we're fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with my opponent doing that. So, yeah, I think our turn 1 plays are locked in right now. I don't think that would alternate by any means. So.
Sure.
And then your events, your low-cost events are all kind of the standard, right? Throws, sparks that hand hate, surprise strikes when we need to, close out those games, hotshot blasters, also pretty self-explanatory, and then bamboozle, make it into the main deck. This has come up much more than I personally even thought it would. Even just to tap down a leader for a turn, they get that big Anakin out there, or they ramp into Darth Vader, and you can bamboozle, tap him down for a turn, but then you can get that damage in that turn. Or maybe you want to stall on 6 so you can get to your Han unit on 7. And yeah, it's been performing really well. Even if you're just paying 2 for it at some point, it sometimes makes sense. So between Bamboozle and Grogu, we have quite a lot of, like, we're going to tap down your unit for a turn. So it's kind of tempo swingy in that way. So yeah, and then of course getting rid of pilot leaders, super great.
Yeah.
And then any upgrades to stall out the game a little bit helps there. And then I really wanted 12 threes because turn 1 and turn 2 for Quinlan are so important. I mean, they are for any deck, right? But Quinlan's late game is not super, super strong, and he definitely can't build the board as great as he can at the beginning. And so I really wanted to have just a strong lineup of threes to come out. And everything's pretty much the same. Ezra is our Force user. Cass is a 3/5 that can be smuggled. Millennium Falcon's just damage in space. And then Red 5 coming in as our 4th 3-drop. And Red 5 has like crazy synergy with this deck. Just pinging stuff. You can set up plays where you don't necessarily have to use your Tarkin Town. You can save it for later on. and get pings going. So yeah, red 5 was very nice, and having another 3/4 in space for 3 is also really good as well. So and then we get into the kind of later game. We are still playing 2 waylays. It's just that good of a card right now. It's always going to stay in there to some degree. I do kind of wish the third one was in the board somehow, but the board is tight. It'd be really hard to fit waylays in there.
Sure.
But our 4s are like arguably the strongest 4-cost cards in the game.
Yeah.
So Katano and Kira talked a little bit about Ahsoka, but yeah, just crazy. Who would guess that Yellow Hero gets 2 4-drops that are 3/5s with busted effects? Okay, sure. But yeah, Kira also we're just pushing this hand hate barrier of you don't get to do anything. Quick note, you always Ahsoka first and then Kira second, because if you Kira first, they're just going to discard the card you called with Ahsoka. So
makes sense.
Even if there's not necessarily something you can tap down with the Ahsoka effect if you hit a unit, it's still worth it, especially against your control decks or these decks that are playing Colossus. So, the hand hate, again, helps. And then probably the most broken card in the deck, which is Plo Koon. For some reason, it just feels like insane in this deck, and just like it's okay in other decks, but in Plo or in Quinlan, Plo just feels like crazy. We cinch any 5-cost leaders that have 7 HP, right? If we get our Voss out first, and then they don't, and then we like somehow make it so that we know what's going on, they don't have a Plo, it's just GG for the mirror. I will say Plo normally isn't played on 5. It's usually a Kira or an Ahsoka plus a throw or a spark and a 3-drop, something like that, because we don't want to just flip into nothing, especially in the mirror. But yeah, Plo usually was played on 6 most of the time, but still just crazy. I mean, 6/6 ambush in a deck where you don't have ECL can technically hit for 7 if it's swinging at a 5-cost unit or lower is so strong. And then he has the force, right? And then if he sticks around the turn after this and he starts swinging for 6, you're just putting your opponent on a timer.
Mm-hmm.
Super strong card. And then we are closing it out with the Han Solo unit. I don't think I got to talk about that card much. It's just such a good card. Same kind of thing as Plo, where it can ambush for 7, I guess it's a 7-cost unit or something. So our good thing to note too is that is our only 7-cost force throw target for ourselves. So if we need to take out a 7 HP unit, we can always throw ourselves and chuck the Han unit at it. So that happens quite often. He's in there for that too. But yeah, also just holding it to play as the big ambush guy is very strong. But yeah, the main deck felt great. I know Max said it felt real solid. He has history playing Quinlan 2 in set 3, so it's not like he was just blind picking up the deck, but I don't think he'd touched it since Jump to Lightspeed. Honestly, it feels great. Like I said, I'd really like maybe a third waylay to make it in there somewhere, but other than that, it feels solid. And then looking in the board, we're playing kind of just utility board. Our main deck is, I wouldn't say it's meant for aggro, but there isn't a ton of like control stuff in there. There are cards that are just naturally good enough into control. So the board is kind of split. And so we're starting out with 1 Jam Communications. It seems like a lot of people are just playing 3 of that instead of Pillages. But Pillage is just so strong. I really like the split. I really like the 1 Jam, the 2 Pillage come in against, control or mid-range or something like that. Performed really well. Fang Fighters, I think, kind of just have to get played at the moment because of all the upgrades right now. Pilots, Dark Sabers, General's Blade, Jedi Lightsabers, Traitorous, all of these things. Yeah, they're just kind of a confiscates or Fang fighters. I do like Fang fighters. A lot of people aren't playing Fang fighters because you're trying to get rid of like a Han pilot on a Falcon, and then they'll just kill your Fang fighter and still live. But with Quinlan, if they do that, you can ping the Falcon for 1. So at least your Fang fighter is trading with it. So that's why I'm still on those. 2 techs. I mean, that card's just nuts. Pretty self-explanatory. That goes in for those hard control, grindy matchups where maybe we had to get rid of a cure at the beginning of the game, and then now we get it back. Our whole resource throws our hand. So tech's cool. Talked about pillage, and then the shadowed hover tank coming in as a 5/3 sentinel. So in Twilight, I know this slot was like Gamorrean guards is what people were testing out with, and it was really good. It's pretty conditional, especially in this deck. It's not like we're playing. I mean, we are playing a lot of yellow, right? But there is a good amount of red as well. So sometimes it can be really conditional. And having a 5/3 Sentinel versus the 4/4, especially against like aggro, is really nice. You throw this down against a Sabine, and they can't ECL K2 into this to get rid of your Sentinel like they could with the Gamorrean guards. And this is also taking out Sabine if they have to throw her into it. So yeah, I like the hover tank a lot. In fact, that's one where I'm like, if I could get 3 somehow in this list, it would feel really nice as well. And then our third Han unit is the last card in our side deck, and that's just those later game mid-rangey decks or 7 HP leaders. Again, you want to force throw at them, that can come in too. But yeah, overall the list feels solid. At this time, I'm not going to make any changes, just going to be testing it further, seeing what boundaries we can kind of push and what tweaks 1 or 2 cards can switch now that impacts everything. But yeah, Quinlan definitely feeling like a very strong presence in the meta at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of options here. It's meta positioned really well, mid range in essence to take out to deal with your aggros, and then all the hand hate that's on board is gonna feel nice into those soft and hard controls there. But for this tournament, sounds like we may have had a couple different types of matchups here. Looking at the summary, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's probably about 15 to 20 participants for the tournament. So there was 4 rounds of Swiss, and then cut to top.
Yeah, 5 rounds of Swiss there was.
Oh, I may have missed the last round then.
It was a draw, so we'll talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Intentional draw.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. Kind of a funny thing. So, I mean, we'll talk about that too. First, one of the big tournaments with the rule change. But yeah, 5 rounds of Swiss into cut. And yeah, I think there was 15 to 20 people there, not by any means a giant PQ level tourney, but definitely, a little more than your locals normally. And sounded like it was a pretty competitive tournament as well. So, yeah, I got some matchups to go over and have a little bit of insight. So his round 1 was his only loss in Swiss, and it was to Iden Blue. I did ask him, no offense to our Iden Blue players out there, because I too was once an Iden Blue player. But I'm like, how did you lose this matchup, right? We got all the hand hate in the world. I mean, plus Kira, we should have a great time. And he just said his draws were just god awful, just playing units, they're getting removed. Same thing with game 2. He boarded in the pillages, the jam communications, and just didn't see anything. So a very, very tough 0-2 to start the tournament. But then I guess you could say he submarined from the bottom to start the rest of it. So round 2 was against Boba 4 Cunning, and that was a 2-0 victory. Think that was something along the lines of just a turn 1 Tarkentown into racing, and he was able to outpace. Round 3 was Pilot Luke from set 4, green. Was not ECL. It was 30 base. Now, I do think if it's ECL, it's actually kind of scary, right? Because then we get the presence of ECL Wrecker and Poe.
Sure.
But, again, essentially what is an aggro deck? The same thing applies. We get to Tarkin Town, their turn 1 play, or if they pass, we can spark and see what's going on. And I think he said that plus the Falcon being able to kill early ships kind of just takes the match away from them. Between Boba and Luke also deploying on 6, we got a 5-cost leader that damage can just add up so quickly. So that was a 2-0. And then his round 4 was against set 1 Luke, green. It was not Data Vault. It was just 30 base. So not necessarily the same as what everyone's been on, that Data Vault Luke 1. But that was a 2-0. I think he just, between hand hate and, pushing damage, the Luke just couldn't catch up with them. I think he said he sparked a Luke on the Luke turn, unit. So that was a big, tempo swing to keep in his control. So that was a 2-0. And then round 5 was an intentional draw. So, of course, we had the rule change by FFG where intentional draws are 1.1 points. So I think, we had a couple people there from our team and just some people we know from locals. And I know there was at least 2 matches that were intentional draws because they were already guaranteed the top cut. So, hey, it works out. Why play games we don't have to? So,
yeah.
That brings us into the top cut. I don't know what seed he was out of the top 8, but his first round of top cut was against that Iden Blue. So we're getting revenge here, and that was a 2-1. I believe the Iden 1 game 1, and then post board it was just force throws, sparks. Kira, so he said he drew like the nuts both games. Insane hand hate. I think he said on like the Iden turn the guy had no cards in hand. So just kind of brutal to try and come back from that as the control player. And then his top 4 was against Anakin Colossus. And I know this is one that we've had a lot of testing internally in our team, have a couple people trying it out. It's not by any means like a for sure guaranteed win, right? You think with the 3 cards in hand versus the 4 starting, it's really easy to get ahead. But if they can stall you towards that end game, it can be tough. But that one was a 2-1 victory. I know he said the last game came down to the Anakin player drawing a Luke, and he didn't draw the Luke. So, I mean, make your opponent have it, but he didn't have it. So that was the top 4. And then our finals was the Quinlan Target Mirror, which I don't know if I would say any mirrors are fun in this game, but this one is certainly not fun. It involves a lot of passing, a lot of mind games, and who can hand hate first, which Plo comes out first. There's just a lot of craziness to the boss mirror, but he was able to get that 2-0. Like I said, Grogu came in handy that match, which is nice to see because that's kind of one of our tech choices is maining the Grogu. So yeah, that was the total of 9 rounds of cards on a Saturday, but came out with a Carbonite box. So it seems like it's pretty worth it.
Yeah. They seem like the matches that Quinlan wants to see, other than the Tarkin Town and then maybe the Luke, the set 4 Luke green that you were talking about. So definitely some favorable matchups, but even round 1, it comes down to what you draw. We'll say that a lot on this channel. You gotta draw it to win. Yeah, solid work. It's one of the reasons I'm not on Quinlan is I just don't want that match. I don't want that mirror match at all.
Yeah,
I think it's gross. I don't have the patience for the mind games sometimes. So
yeah,
totally
definitely not. let's just pass until 5 and like see what happens. Sometimes that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. As
But
a
yeah, the deck definitely like not feeling invincible either, and even at locals on Tuesday, I know I went 4-0, but it was 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. Like I did not feel like I was invincible by any
sure.
means. Sometimes though, when you get all the hand hate, then you kind of do feel like, okay, this feels a little strong. I do feel like force throw is like it, it's in the argument to be on the chopping block. Maybe I mean that card's crazy. If you
Yeah.
hit stuff like it's great.
Yeah, force throw is crazy. Set 5 is on the way. And if we see the right force users in the right colors, there's definitely going to be a conversation about some of these force synergy cards. Because set 5 is
Right.
talking about this whole, like, different mechanic with the force, like having the force with you. But, like, set 1 specifically brought a lot of cards that just said, if you have the force, you get more. So it's like a different, like, it's just got that different extra spice to it.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes those cards dangerous in a
Oh,
sense.
for sure. Yeah, I could feel it's like it could very much feel like you're doubling up. Like, oh,
Mm.
I'm getting a very strong force unit with a very strong effect, and then also getting the bonus of other cards that use the force if I have it.
Yeah. It's again, it's like we've seen cards come out that like we've said you're really going to give this archetype that. I'm extremely worried about that, especially for Quinlan, because if there's more force throw targets, especially earlier on, no one's going to have a good time. So I
Yeah,
definitely am with you in the camp of we got to watch force throw because
yeah,
it's a it can be a win more super fast.
yeah.
But I think the other thing that I'm thinking about is I think there was a conversation in one of the streams about how they're shifting a lot more 3-drop units to have that 3/5 body, or that 3/5 stat line. So I could see, you know, I know you're not making any changes, but I could see Leia Daring Raid coming back into the
Mhm.
conversation to kind of address
Yeah,
that a
for
bit
sure.
more.
Yep, yeah. If oh my gosh, if we get a force user that's a 3/5 for 3, oh, oh no.
Yeah.
Even if it's just vanilla 3/5 for 3 force user, like buy Ezra.
Yeah. Everyone.
Okay, although the goat Ezra has been like insane lately. Like
Yeah.
I, he has done some crazy stuff, like rip a force throw off attack, or like attack, rip a surprise strike, swing with another unit for game. Ezra does do crazy things if you
Yeah.
believe in
Did Max have any good rips this last tournament?
Uh, he didn't mention anything to me. I don't know if he was paying much
Mm.
attention to it, but I know in set 3, yeah, like Ezra was one of his favorite cards to play because
Oh
he just
yeah.
had some like, insane plays that happened. Probably.
Yeah, it's great. You get a little extra peek at what's next for your deck too, which can help build your strategy. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, it'll all come down to what force units come later on.
yeah. I mean, we already seen the one drop Anakin, which is like,
Oh.
ooh, like first of all, I do want like one drops could be really relevant if like people start playing one drops, then I can ping one drops, which I can't do right now,
Mm,
and then I can Anakin force throw on turn 1, which is like,
yeah.
I don't have to use target down on turn 1. I could just kill something and then I can use my target down. Like, oh,
Yeah, oh indeed. Um but yeah. Um yeah, shout out to our teammate Max for taking it home and bringing a victory. Obviously he won a Carbonite box out of this one, so we were able to hold off on him ripping that open before we got a camera in front of him. So we do have a unboxing video that'll come out from this one. So
yep.
check out
That
our.
is a great box too.
Yeah, I heard.
Be sure
I
to watch the video. It's a good one.
yeah, I woke up the next morning and just the chat was just blew up from how that went. So yeah, look forward to that video later on this week. Yeah, let us know if you took your Quinlan Tarkentown or have faced a Quinlan Tarkentown recently. If you got any thoughts on that one, yeah. we're definitely keeping our eye on this guy because he definitely was the first one that people looked to after the ban. So I would expect, especially with the competitive season kind of taking off. I know this upcoming weekend has a bit of a break, but it's pretty much every weekend after that, almost till Vegas that there'll be some sort of major tournament. So I would definitely suggest looking out for this guy. But yeah, if you like our video, or if you have any other thoughts, feel free to drop it in the comments. If you haven't subscribed already, we certainly would appreciate that. We're slowly trying to creep to that 200 subscribers. Definitely appreciate. We'll keep going. We definitely appreciate the love on that. But otherwise, we'll see you in the next one, and peace out.
Peace.
Grand Army of the Republic when deployed. Galactic warfare you cannot avoid. Go ahead, be a battle droid. Face off against my clone troopers and get destroyed. Space tech, spaceports, TCG, card sports, of course, till my voice goes hoarse. Welcome, wrecking, decking with the strategy, the energy. It's Clone Force 23.